Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, this is a story from today, Monday, June 19th, about the destruction of the Catholic faith in France. That's not the way they say it, but that's basically what it is. It is a survey released about the dwindling, exposing, making clear for even the blind to see the dwindling Catholic population in France, which means the dwindling of Christianity in France. Because being a Catholic is being a Christian, being a true Christian, the only true Christian there is, which has the full, complete, full doctrine of Christ. Anyways, so this is the survey. So the report found that only 25% of the French people call themselves, so whether they were baptized as children or not. So technically they may be Catholic, but they basically have rejected the faith. So only 25% of the French people call themselves Catholic, while nuns, meaning like I have no religion, I am not affiliated to anything, has risen to 53% of the French population. So you got 53%, which have no religion, plus 25, that's 78% of the people. And then there's about 11% Muslims, so, and whatever is left after that. So we have a new report examining the religious landscape of France, the INSEE Trajectories and Origins Survey number 2. I guess there was a number 1 previously, has found that Catholicism to have spiraled downward in popularity, as if it's a popularity contest. So Catholicism, true Christianity, the Christian faith has come to France from the first and second centuries. Like Saint Irenaeus of Saint Irenaeus, who was in Gaul, uh, has dwindled since the 1960s. I wonder what happened in the 1960s. Was there some kind of a synodal process, a council, which ended in the 60s? I don't know, maybe. The survey was aimed at those aged in the age group of 18 to 59. So many of whom have not received very much religious formation or have immigrated to France in the last 10 years. So they have no religious formation. Uh, but again, as I said previously, even those who go to Catholic schools end up being not Catholic at all. And reason being one of those, like lack of doctrine, doctrine, watered down liturgy. Especially if you tell children this is God incarnate in the Eucharist, but hey, you can grab them as a potato chips and put them in your mouth yourself. Or is a child going to believe that this is truly and substantially God who made them? Of course not. Then they will lose the faith and they become nuns, as they say, people with no religion. The study noted that from 1872 until 1960, and remember, if you know, in Our Lady of Fatima, she told the children, told Lucy, that the secret, which the final part of the third part of the great secret of Fatima, was to be revealed by 1960, because then it would be clearer. And of course, it wasn't. Um, until 1960, the Catholic population of France held firm, even from the French Revolution, the anti-Christian French Revolution. The Catholic population in France held firm at 97%. And now it is 25. 97% till 1960. Not that far away. In modern times, however, the portion of French population has fallen to just 25%. I wonder why. Did they change the way Catholics believe? Did they change the way Catholics worship? Did they tell Catholics, one true church, one true faith? Yeah, that's passe. Did they have ecumenism where your religion, my religion, everybody's religion is just the same, all leading to heaven? Even though Vatican II called it Irenicism, which it actually condemned it. But anyways, is that what happened? Who knows? God knows only. Nobody knows. It's a mystery. Was it the springtime of Vatican II and the liturgical renewal? You know, who knows? I mean, how could it be? I mean, who knows? So it has fallen down to just 25%, with a downward trend expected to continue. Contrast that, of course, with the just recent 2023 Pentecost pilgrimage, traditional pilgrimage, which thousands of young Catholics, mainly French, participated in. They had to shut down the registrations for the pilgrimage because they had no room more. There was no room for them in the inn. There was no more room for them to build campsites and tents and to accommodate more than 16,000 people who marched for 3 days from Paris to Chartres. I did part of it on another video. Anyways, in explanation of the shrinking Catholic faith in France, the reports point to several trends, which were first noticed in the previous Teo 1, which is the first survey, I guess, and have since been exacerbated in the Teo 2. The first of these is the rise of the non-religious. But is that the problem, or is this the consequence of the loss of the faith? You lose the faith, you become non-religious. It's not the non-religious. The religion of the non-religious has increased. No. And thus the faith of Catholics decreased. No, it's the faith of Catholics have disappeared, has been destroyed, has been watered down, that the non-religious have increased. It is the result of the loss of faith. It's not the cause of the loss of faith. Often referred to as nuns, like nothing, none. A group which makes up the majority of the French population at 53%. So as Fatima says, Our Lady of Fatima, Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, the Theotokos, told the children that the errors of Russia will spread throughout the world. And what were the errors of Russia? It was not just the economic system of communism. No, it is atheism, anti-family, anti-God, anti-natural law, which were the basis of Russian communism. And that, in fact, has spread throughout the world. Now, the West is far more communistic in that sense than Russia ever was and actually is. So, indeed, the errors of Russia, of atheism and anti-family socialism, has spread throughout the world. Prophecy fulfilled. Meanwhile, over the last 12 years, so in 12 years, I wonder when that happened. Oh, Francis was reigning for 10. And of course, Benedict was being attacked for the last 2 years of his pontificate, as it was from the beginning. Catholics have dwindled from 43% to 25%. So in just 12 years, 10 of which were Francis's, fruit of the fruits of the most humble Pope of history and of his socialist propaganda. Francis, for me, is basically a socialist politician. That's all he is. That's all he talks about. Socialism, openness, ecology, Jesus Christ, the only God, the only true faith, go preach the gospel to all nations. No, none of that. Because that would be proselytism and not respecting the dignity of man. Meanwhile, over the last 12 years, Catholics have dwindled from 43% to 25%. So 18%, say 20% down in 12 years, 20%. So gone from 97% up to 1960, 65, whatever, 97% down to 25% of the French population. The report does not cite one reason for such a fast decrease of nearly half of the Catholic ranks, but half in 12 years. But it went down from 97% in 1960 to 25%. So 75% decline, basically. 75% decline in Catholics in 60, 40, so 60 years or so. Yeah, 75% decline. It notes that the sexual abuse crisis within the church has been a factor, but that crisis did not start the exodus of Catholics from the church in France. The dwindling of the French Catholic faith is juxtaposed with the rise of other Christian denominations because they leave the Catholic faith and join different sects. This is especially prevalent in Latin America and South America, where the population was virtually 100% Catholic. Now Catholics are a minority, if that. And they have all joined evangelical Bible-believing churches. Uh, thank you, openness, and false ecumenism, which is really Iranicism, and thank you for the liturgical renewal and the watering down of Catholic doctrine. Thank you, and one more time, merci, un grand merci pour tout. And so the really is juxtaposed with the rise of other Christian denominations, again, Christian denominations, as well as consistently rising portion of the French people who identify as Muslim. Muslims in particular have increased their percentage in France from 8% to 11%. It doesn't give you the time period of that increase. Again, most of it came in after the 1960s. Before the 1960s, as you see, 97% of the population was Catholic. So after the 1960s, late 60s, the uh, the invasion of France went full blast. First of all, destruction of the faith, destruction of the liturgy, destruction of the French identity, and open invasion of people who do not share the same culture as the French. And culture comes from the word from cultus, meaning worship, into the country. So and the same. So, anyways, in the same time, so the report did note, however, that this is more due to reproduction rates among Muslims, meaning Muslims have actually babies. They actually have babies. Catholics and other so-called Christians are contracepting themselves to extinction. They are not having children. They are defying God, who said, "Be fruitful and multiply." And children are a gift of God, not a curse. And so they'd rather have an iPhone and a nicer car, a second or third car, than having a child to raise. But Muslims don't think that way. True Christians don't think that way. And people say, oh, children are a burden. Look at the poverty. Well, people actually are in the highest levels of debt in history, debt to banks and credit card companies, and with no children. Why? Because they waste their money on other things, on things which will disappear and do nothing. The report did so, anyways. Of course, Catholics, traditional Catholics in France, are actually having children, unlike the Catholics in name only brethren. So it says it's basically regarding it's more Muslims have babies than from conversions and plus immigration with migrant ships across the Mediterranean, of course, which they don't mention. Overall, the rate of children being born to Muslim families in France is 24% higher than that of Catholics and 22% higher than that of evangelical Protestants. Immigration also found to be somewhat influential aspect of the French religious landscape. Of course, it opened from 97% Catholic to 25% now, as the portion of French citizens born in other countries has surpassed 10%. So 10% of the French population isn't really French. They're born in other countries. The report notes, I mean, just look at the French soccer team, the French judo team, the French any team. It's like the French colonies team. That's what it is. It's the French colonies team. They get from all the colonies they had in Africa and the Middle East. So these are their teams. So the French soccer team is basically the colonies team. The report notes that even though incoming immigrants tend to identify as Catholics, so I guess some they do, they tend to become largely secularized once they live in France. Thank you for the laïcité, the secular status of France being an anti-Catholic state. The report concluded that the visible decline of Catholicism in France began in the 1960s. Let me repeat this again for those who do not understand the consequences of what happened in the church in the 1960s and what happened in the church. The Convocation of Vatican II, which was as Benedict XVI in the name of Cardinal Ratzinger to all the Chilean bishops in 1988 that the Vatican II restricted itself, did not define any doctrine or any dogma, but restricted itself to being on a modest level a merely pastoral council. These are his very words, which did not define any dogma. Yet people treat it as a super dogma and it starts from zero, as if there was no Christianity before Vatican II. Let's interpret everything anew according to the spirit, not even the letter of Vatican II, because a lot of times the spirit explicitly and emphatically contradicts the very letter of the Second Vatican Council. So what happens? So there's, first of all, this doctrinal upheaval in the 1960s in the Catholic Church. Second, well, we have the liturgical renewal emanating after Vatican II, again, taking the schema of the document on Vatican II on the liturgy and giving it to Annibale Bonini, who consulted with Protestant pastors and theologians in devising the new liturgy. He removed everything which was explicitly Catholic, explicitly Christian, explicitly sacrificial from the liturgy, so they won't be stumbling blocks to our separated brethren. So basically, remove the apostolic faith from the liturgy so it won't offend those who reject the apostolic faith. And Paul VI himself, when he talked about the liturgy, I have the little video on it, he himself called this creation a novelty, an innovation, a new rite, which will cause annoyance. And so he called it the liturgical innovation of the new rite. It is a liturgical innovation of the new rite. Your Catholic Mass is not a Catholic Mass. It is not the Apostolic Roman Rite. It is a fabrication of the 1960s, a watered-down Catholicism, which resulted in a watered-down faith, which resulted in secularism and abandonment of the faith. Because lex orandi, lex credendi, how you pray is how you believe. Even Francis Jorge of Rome and his junta, who were, after he attempted to suppress the ancient liturgy in Traditionis Custodes, they were bringing up lex orandi, lex credendi, how you pray is how you believe. That's why they wanted to suppress the ancient liturgy and promote the liturgy of Vatican II, as they call it, because the way you pray is what you believe, which means the ancient liturgy passes on a different faith than the liturgical innovation of the new rite, using Paul VI's very words. So anyways, so if you want to keep the faith and keep your children's faith, find an ancient Roman rite or an ancient Eastern liturgy to participate in. And of course, study the old catechisms. Actually, I would even recommend the Compendium of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which is a new document, which is excellent, except for the parts which Jorge Francis of Rome tried to change about the death penalty. Ignore that. Erase it from your head, because we know exactly what God himself commanded in the Old Testament regarding this ultimate punishment. So anyways, I'll finish this as the last paragraph. The report concluded that the visible decline of Catholicism in France began in the 1960s, not before. So obviously, with the old Mass, with the old doctrine, with the old ecclesiology of the church was fine. 97% of people were Catholic. But a new ecclesiology, a new liturgy, a new direction has caused a decline and a decline and a decline. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. So the report concluded that the visible decline of Catholicism in France began in the 1960s, in the years immediately after the Second Vatican Council. It also noted that the Jewish and Muslim families transmit their religion better than Catholic families. Well, yeah, obviously. Suggesting that the solution to the dwindling Catholic faith in France may be to place a greater focus on religious education and formation. As I said, though, unfortunately, even a lot of people, dare I say, most Catholics who go to Catholic schools end up losing the faith because, again, they are taught a watered-down Christianity, and participated in a watered down liturgy, which leads to a watered down faith, which, when confronted with um, with a challenge, is lost. So, solution to this problem, as you can see even in France, traditional orders, traditional religious orders, traditional priestly orders, uh, traditional parishes are flourishing, not only with people, but with vocations. You have seen this especially at the church pilgrimage of every single year, and especially in 2023, where it had to stop registrations because it could not handle any more Catholics, any more traditional Catholics who participate and adhere to the traditional liturgy of the Roman Church. Anyways, so let's, this is the situation. So let's do our best to keep the faith and restore the faith, especially among the young. That's it. That's all. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.